Hey everybody, how you doing? Want to do a quick video about a subject that I've been wanting to talk about for quite some time now, and I've never had a platform to do it on, so here we go. It's about fanboys, and I want to start off by saying I don't like the term fanboys or fangirls for that matter. And if you don't know, it's basically a derogatory term for fans. There's this philosophy going on right now that, fans they're toxic, or they're being too much. They're not being the appropriate enough fan, or they're not supporting enough, or they're supporting too much, or they take it too seriously, or not enough. And I've heard this term for many years. I think it was probably about, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago. I used to read a lot of gaming websites, and I would get into the comment sections a lot, because for me personally, I've always felt that comment sections are what people are really thinking. Now, I'm not saying that all comments are good, and on the comment section is it's the end all be all for what fans are thinking. But I've always felt I can get a good pulse of the fan group, and like what they're thinking about the video or the topic of the article or the game or the movie that's being spoken on the gaming websites that I used to watch a lot. I used to be on gaming websites every day. I had 3 or 4 that I would thumb through, and just to get the news and see what's the latest and greatest for games and movies, and it kind of started off with just games, and then it really got into movies and TV shows. Gaming websites really started bringing them into the fold. So I used to love listening to the commentators and the journalists, games journalists, and the movie reviewers. And I would always go to the comment sections after, just to kind of check out if anybody was thinking what I was thinking, or what people's thoughts were on what was said. And I think that there are, in the comment sections, I think it's good and bad, and I totally understand that. I get that there are people out there who go into comment sections just to start crap, just to talk shit to people and get people riled up and make themselves feel better by trying to tear other people down. Those people exist. Those commenters exist. But I always thought that it was interesting, because the word fanboy started showing up a lot in comment sections first. That's when I started seeing it a lot. And then, after, I don't even know how long, a couple of years of that, then I started really hearing the journalists and the reviewers and, the commentators or whatever of the websites, the gaming websites that I would listen to. They started really adopting that, and they started using that term as a way to describe fans in a bad way. And I noticed it a little bit back then, but then lately it's been a lot of like Hollywood. Hollywood has really taken the reins on that, and they're going after fans who don't support the movies that they make or the TV shows that they make. And I am not cool with that. I don't agree with that philosophy. I don't agree with that method. You're talking to the customers who are paying your salary, who are buying the movie tickets and going to see your movies. They're giving you the TV ratings. When they tune in or record on their DVR and have these, weekly shows that they watch. And they also now, especially in this current state, they're the ones who are signing up and paying monthly subscriptions for streaming services like Netflix and Amazon and Paramount and Disney Plus. And to go after fans and customers in a way to sort of, to me, I think it's just, it's trying to generate a hot topic, so that for the clicks and for the conversation. But I just don't agree with it. I never have. Every time I hear some director or some actor taking shots at fans for not supporting or not doing what they want, basically, it always rubs me the wrong way. So I started hearing it, like I said, that term fanboys. I started hearing it in the comment sections. Then I started hearing the commentators and the journalists talk about it on the podcast that I would listen to. And I used to listen to podcasts religiously. I probably had about a good dozen or more hours a week of podcasts that I was a regular subscriber every week. Could not wait to tune in to hear the latest Xbox news, the latest Nintendo news, the latest PlayStation news. And then I really started getting into movie, more like TV shows, because, you had like a lot of TV shows that were they were really water cooler, shows that Game of Thrones, before it crashed and burned, it was it was a big conversation. It was a big topic of conversation. Walking Dead had that for a while too. Those are just a couple of examples. And the thing that bothers me about it is I think that I think we're at a point now where what I'm seeing is there's a lot of sort of there's a lot of people who have made it in the industry, in the gaming industry specifically, and they have worked very hard, and they put in a lot of years of writing articles, reviewing games, doing podcasts and shows, cutting videos for their websites, and debating gaming consoles and games and reviewing them and talking about them and bringing fresh content to customers like myself, they have now shut the door behind them, who when they were starting out and they were making a name for themselves, they were very much a fan of a console. And let me give you an example. So I was listening to a podcast, and it's a PlayStation podcast, and the person who I tune in for the most part, he's been around for many years, like many years, and I've been a fan of his for many years, and I'm still a fan. Just to be clear, I'm not like separating myself, and I'm not here to name anybody or say, we need to cancel this person, because I'm not with that shit either. I'm not with the cancel culture. I don't want any piece of that. But and just by saying that, I could get canceled. But anyways, this one person who, like I said, I have a lot of respect for, and I tune in because I respect this man's opinion, and he's very knowledgeable in PlayStation specifically, but in just gaming news generally, he's very knowledgeable. And he has been a PlayStation. He's been, I guess you could say, like, oh, he's been a PlayStation guy for years. And I used to listen to his podcast every week, and I've sunk many hours listening to his show, and others that came onto his show, and they were always cool with being fanboys then, like, and I don't mean like they were trashing Microsoft or they were trashing Nintendo, but they were cheering on PlayStation. So like when PlayStation did something good, they really sunk their teeth into that content and gave you all the reasons of why it was a good thing that Sony made this acquisition or this game that just came out, how great it was and how they're making all the right moves. And to be fair, they did critique Sony as well. This person and the people on his show, they critiqued PlayStation as well. So I'm not saying that they were just solely a cheering section and they had no objectivity and could segregate what they were fans of versus an honest opinion. But they also were fanboys, and commenters and stuff. Like I said, I used to read a lot of comments. They would call them fanboys, but it was more in jest. It was more like, oh, just they call them like Sony ponies and Sony fanboys, and there's all these little names. Xbox got their own, like Xbots. They call Sony fans will take shots at Xbox gamers and call them Xbots, BOTS. And to me, that type of back and forth is fine. I don't have any problem with that. It's no different than having two fans of opposite a football team, NFL team, or an MLB team, or an NBA team. There's fan bases that support their teams and they cheer for them, and then they debate the opposing fans. I've got no problem with that. That's what makes industries grow. That's how these consoles grow. And I didn't have any problem with this particular podcaster being a fanboy. and cheering on Sony, even when it was just like, oh, they did something little, but he would kind of go out of his way to make a big deal out of it, and he would take shots at Xbox. And that's, to me, I think it was completely in tune with the audience, and that's what got me to tune in and listen. Now, I would go and, as soon as I was done with that podcast, I'd move right on to the Xbox podcasts that I listened to, and they would say the opposite. They'd be cheering on Xbox, and they'd be, rah, rah, this, they're so amazing. And even, when they were, struggling or putting out bad content, or their games sucked or were very low quality, they would find some way to give them excuses, and they wouldn't go all in. But as soon as Sony had a misstep or had a game that was low quality, they would have no problem throwing a little jab at them. And again, I want to be very clear, I was fine with his content, totally fine. But now, I was listening to a podcast last week, and this person who, like I said, I've been listening to for years. I mean, I don't know. I've probably been listening to this guy for maybe 8-9 years. And he was on his show, and they were talking about fans. And there was an email or something like that, or I don't remember if he was addressing like an email or if it was an article, but they were talking. He took them a few minutes actually, to go after Fanboys. And he started talking like, we don't want you. If you feel this way, or if you're just here because we are Sony only and we don't play other consoles, or we're only here to cheer on Sony, we don't like you. And we don't like, now, to be clear, he was specifically talking about fans who are fanboys who were being, I don't know, maybe belligerent. And again, I don't remember the exact, this person that were talking about it. It just it started off as a small topic, and then they kind of, him and the other castmates, or they went after this topic for a few minutes, and they were kind of talking like, people, they felt bad for people who were defined by the consoles that they played, and that's no way to live. And they don't want fans like that. They don't want them. They want them to stop watching their content. They want them to go away. And furthermore, they went on to speak for Sony development teams, and saying because they have access to Sony development, Sony teams that, developers and coders or whatever, and artists and writers, because they have the inside access, they were basically speaking for them and saying they don't want you either. They don't want these fans who only like Sony and only want to support Sony and only play Sony games and don't like Xbox and don't like Nintendo, and they aren't welcome here. And that really, it kind of sat me back in my chair, because as I was listening to this, I was on my lunch break, and I was listening to it. I'm eating my lunch, and then all of a sudden, I kind of just stopped eating, and I was like, "Wait, what are they saying?" And it was such a I'm on my high horse, and I'm finger wagging at those below me. It had a very borderline narcissistic tone. Like, they know better for me. They know better for anybody who is not the fan that they want. And they are because they have deemed them bad fans, they can just go away, and they should stop listening. They should stop clicking on their videos. Now, I understand that there are people out there who every cheering section has shitty fans. If you are a fan of any sort of sport, and you have your team, you have your football team, college team, whatever, pro, you know who I'm talking about. You know those fans who get extra rowdy. They go out of their way to, yell at the opposing team, yell at the opposing players, and just say terrible things to them. Listen, I'm not saying those people don't exist. They exist. I've seen them myself, and I think they suck. They suck as people. Like, that's, you don't have to be a shitty person, to somebody else. But at the same time, who am I to tell this? It's free speech. You want to run your mouth to somebody, they're going to say, you better be prepared for them to defend themselves. you know. Now, I'm not saying like when it comes to physical stuff, because there are those fans too who get physical and they want to physically attack people. You got to go. You're a criminal. Like if you're willing to assault people and you're going to physically harm someone strictly because they're not wearing the same jersey as you, or they're not playing the same console as you. And I don't think that gaming is I don't think this is an apples to apples comparison, but I don't think that I'm way out of line by using sports fans as a comparative to gamer fans, or game console fans. But if you're willing to physically harm someone, then you're just a shitty person. Like if you're just going to go around and you just want to hurt people, I don't have, I don't want to associate with people like that. But like any professional team or any console maker, Sony, Nintendo, Xbox, you cannot control how people are. You just can't. You can't save everybody. You can't turn everyone into this happy, harmonious, we love all consoles, we love all games, nothing is a bad, nothing's bad, everything's great. That you can't, I don't think that that's the route. I don't think that's the route to take. And what I was hearing when I was listening to these guys talk about these bad fans or these toxic fans, man, it just sounded really, it just sounded like they were talking down to, and I didn't even feel like they were talking at me because I'm not that type of person. I have one day I'm going to do a video. I'm just going to talk just about my history of gaming, how I got started, and sort of my life as a gamer, because I've owned multiple consoles. I've played on all of them, and for the most part, I mean, I can't say every single one, but I mean, I've played on several consoles, and I don't really have any sort of allegiance to anything. I'm going to go with whatever I think is best for me at the time. And I've had times where PC was the best thing for me. I was really playing a lot of PC games, and I've had my time with Xbox, I've had my time with Sony, and I've had my time with Nintendo. And I've sort of, I've gone with where I've felt the best quality for me in gaming was. So whatever that was, that's where I went. And I've owned multiple consoles. Like right now, I own two different consoles. Well, I guess you could say three because of PC, but I own a PlayStation 5. That's what I play on right now. And I also have a Switch. I do play some games there. That's again, different conversation, but I do play PlayStation, Switch games. Not a whole bunch, but the idea that people who like something and they cheer for Sony, and they like Sony, and they really want Sony to be successful because they've spent a lot of money and they've invested a lot of time in that ecosystem. I don't think that it's anybody's decision to decipher whether or not they're good or bad fans. Now, if they're good or bad people, that's a case by case basis. You can't just blanket state that anybody who talks crap about Xbox or talks crap about Phil Spencer, or on the other side, anyone who talks crap about Sony or Sony Santa Monica or any sort of studio. I don't think that if there's any fans who are taking shots at these, the consoles that they don't necessarily play on or don't want to play on, I don't think anybody is the gatekeeper to decide. And I really don't like that attacking of fans, because, and I want to circle back to what was really bothering me when I was listening to this podcast. It was this person made their name in the industry being a fanboy. They made their name being a fan of a particular console and cheering them on and taking some shots when they were there at their competition, namely Xbox. And now all of a sudden it's, let's grease the ladder rungs behind them because they're established. They have thousands of subscribers. They have, they make lots of money, and I don't want to say lots of money, but they're making a living. They're making a living off talking about video games, and they're making a living off reviewing video games and talking about video game news and giving their opinions on them. And now all of a sudden it's bad. It's bad to be the fan that they deem as bad. And I think that's something that has been going on a lot, that I've seen in Hollywood a ton. I've seen there's so many directors and actors who've come out and they're talking crap on fans and calling them toxic, and if they don't like something, then they brand them with some sort of terrible name. And I really haven't. This is the first time that I've really heard a creator, a content creator for gaming, really get on that pedestal and just start talking and started like digging in, and taking an opportunity to separate and segregate what they deemed fans that they didn't want, and to tell them to just turn off the content and not come around anymore. That's the first time I ever heard that. And you know, I work full time, so I don't have my head as deep in the game as I used to, because I used to have tons of spare time. Even when I was working previously, I wasn't doing this. I wasn't shooting videos and trying to edit and all this other stuff. But all my free time was spent, listening to content creators and watching game reviews and stuff, and playing video games myself. But I really, I can say that I haven't heard anybody else, and I'm not saying it's never happened, but I haven't heard anybody else sort of go as hard into it as this group did, and it just rubbed me the wrong way. It just did. I just was listening to it, and it was it was a finger wagging moment where they were really calling out people and then telling them to go away. I just think that's a crappy ass way of handling that. I understand that if you want to make a statement of, hey, if you're out there and you're a fan who is, calling people names and threatening them and harassing them online, and saying, hey, I don't approve of that, I'm with you. I have no problem with that. I think that's probably the best route. And I think that definitely, you definitely make it clear, or they could make it clear, that they don't support that sort of behavior. But to call out just people and just saying, go away, we don't want you, we don't need you, strictly because they only like a console that they want to play on and they don't like the other console, like that's bad, like that's a negative thing. And gaming is a place where there should be no loyalty to your console. You should not do that. And it's like, well, who the hell are you to say that? I mean, I'm not one of those people, but who are you? I mean, there was there's a yearly expo. It's called E3, Electronic Expo, and it's in LA. And 2020 happened, and it really threw a wrench in that. But it's an expo for gamers, and it's kind of like the Super Bowl for gamers, if you don't know. And you have all the heavy hitters show up, all the developers, the big name developers, like Microsoft Studios, Bungie, just everybody, Sony Santa Monica or whoever, Sony Bend, Nintendo shows up. Well, they used to. But anyways, you would have this big expo, and they would come out and have these big conferences, and they would provide trailers and insight into what was coming out on Xbox. So Xbox had their own show. They had their own conference, and they had a time, and everyone knew to tune in and listen to that. Nintendo had their same thing. Sony had their same thing. And then some studios, the larger studios, like for example, say Ubisoft, they had their own conference at the expo, at this E3. And it's a very popular and exciting thing if you're a gamer, because you're going to see things that you haven't seen yet. And you're waiting for the surprise, and you're waiting to see content, or you're waiting to see that game that's like, oh man, that looks amazing. Or it's an IP that's been on the shelf for 10 years and now they're coming back and it looks great, and you get really excited. And it's basically like a 90-minute commercial for Sony platforms, Xbox, Nintendo, and also a few, like another developer was like Bethesda. They started having their own show because they have several studios doing several different things. So it's worth an hour or an hour and a half of your time. And the idea that all of these people would show up at E3 or tune in and watch it online just to watch Sony or just to watch Xbox because that's what they were fans of, like that's a bad thing. Like you shouldn't do that. Like you shouldn't just like Xbox. That's not healthy. You shouldn't just cheer for Nintendo. That's not healthy. That is no one's call but your own. That's an individual's decision, you know? And again, I know it's not a one-to-one comparison when we're talking about sports, but that's very similar to saying you must be a Patriots fan and you must be a Cowboys fan because it's bad for fandoms to not get along. And it's like, if that's the case, then let's just all take off our jerseys and let's all Microsoft and Nintendo and Sony, you guys can no longer make games solely for your system. You must make them for all systems so that it's even and it's fair and everyone can get along and there won't be any of this discourse online because it's toxic. That's ridiculous. That is a ridiculous notion. It's never going to happen and it shouldn't. Competition creates greatness. It just does. You need a cheering section, and the cheering section is what typically pays the salaries of the console makers and of the developers of the games. And to be excited for, let's just, and I'm going to use myself as an example. I bought a PlayStation 5. I was excited for all the games that they're coming out with. I've played some really great games so far on this console, and I'm looking forward to whatever else they're coming out with. I have not been Xbox. I just have not been feeling what they're making lately. They've had a lot of missteps. No one can deny that, and I think that they are due for a really big must-play title because, for the most part, they haven't really hit a home run that's a console seller. Because if you don't know, software sells hardware. That's just the name of the game. But if Xbox comes out with the next Halo game, and I've heard some really good things about the multiplayer, which is exciting. But if they come out with the next Halo game and it is a must play, this is something, once in a generation type thing, I will buy an Xbox. I will buy an Xbox just for that game because it's worth my time. It's worth my money and it's worth my time. And I have no problem. I don't feel like I'm betraying my PlayStation, and furthermore, that now opens a library of games that maybe I've wanted to play, but I haven't really felt required to play, or like, oh, I must play this because it's so great. On Xbox, that's okay. That's okay, and that's also okay if I choose not to buy an Xbox because I don't like anything that they're doing, which I have been. Like I've been, and that's the place I'm in right now. I'm not being toxic just because I'm not feeling what Xbox is doing right now, and I think they've made a ton of mistakes managing the development teams and the games that they've shown off and their conferences have been in there. It's okay. It's okay for me to have that opinion, and I'm totally fine with Xbox fans who are listening to me and they're saying, "Shut the hell up. I love Xbox. Sony sucks." That's okay. That's all good. It's okay for people to disagree with me. It's okay. I'm fine with people who disagree with me, as long as you can come at me with a nice reason and you can debate it and it's not just finger pointing, you're an idiot and I'm smart, that type of crap. That's just stupid. I don't have time for that. I just won't engage with that person. But if someone comes at me and they want to debate me and tell me how great Xbox is and how poor Sony is doing right now and how I'm in the wrong camp and I should move over to Xbox, I'm listening. I would love that discussion. I love having those sort of debates. That's great. But it just sort of rubs me the wrong way, man. It makes me mad when people start talking down to fans and listening, getting back to the point of, what got me fired up. And I don't know if you can hear it in my voice. Like it gets me going. Like, it's just like, my man, you need to be quiet. You need to cut that out because to build your career on being a fan of something and cheering it on and being in that cheering section, maybe not being a terrible person about it, which is good for you. If you were a terrible person about it, you wouldn't have built yourself up. You would have been tossed out of the game a long time ago. But you did it right. You were cheering your section on. You were cheering your console on. You were cheering on the games. You were giving them breaks when they would make mistakes, and you would take extra shots at the opposing console. And that's not even a thing. It's just their competition. If you've built your name up doing that, and now you're telling people to not do that and that it's not okay, shut the hell up. You can't. I mean, that's not for you to say. You're not the arbiter of what fans are, and I think that's really the point. I think really I think that's what I've been thinking is this sort of, what I've been hearing with Hollywood and what I've been hearing from a lot of big name actors who are, you know, 10 millionaires, they have 30, 50, $100 million in the bank, and they get on there and they start talking about how people should live and how people are toxic and this is not appropriate, and they're telling you how to raise your family and all that other crap. Go away with that. I just click, I turn that off. I don't even have time for it. I don't even get angry anymore. I just roll my eyes and move on. And this was the first time where I had and this person isn't like, I don't know, I'm not here to count this man's chips, and I'm not here to say he's made a bunch of money, because I don't know and I don't care. Furthermore, what that isn't really the point. The point is that this person is recognized in the industry and has built a name for himself and has done a great job at that. And this is the first time I've ever heard this person say these things, and they were saying taking shots at fans and sort of, with both barrels, just, talking about how they need to go away and we don't want you. That is a really arrogant take, my friend. And one day that may bite you in the ass. So I would be very cautious when you decide to start separating out the people that you want and don't want to watch your content strictly based on the fact that you heard them make a comment that you didn't like, that you thought was too toxic, or you thought was not fair, or was something that you didn't like. You can easily ignore that. You can easily just say, you know what, I don't like it, so I'm not really going to give you any oxygen. I'm not going to let that breathe. I'm going to let that fire just die out on its own. You can go that route. But to go the route that you went, I have an issue with that. And I think a lot of people do. I think a lot of normies just like me, we're all just, we're all in the rat race. We go to work, we pay our bills, we take care of our families, we spend the weekends with our families and having fun, and we plan vacations, and we're just trying to live our life. And I think that there's so many people who are who do have a platform and have built platforms for themselves, or there's also people who have had those platforms handed to them. We're really tired of being told how to live our lives. We're really tired of being told that we are doing it wrong and they know better. Why? Because you have money? Because you have 150,000 or 950,000 subscribers? That means absolutely nothing to me and my household. It means nothing to how I'm going to live my life. I don't come to your podcast, and I don't watch your movies to be taught lessons. I don't tune into TV shows to be taught lessons. If I want to be taught something, maybe I'll tune into the History Channel or the Discovery Channel and watch something. I'll watch a special on bees, or watch, a special on, the history of World War One. That's when I'm like, ooh, I want to be informed. I want to be told something, and I'm listening, and I want to be taught something. But to be told that I need to be a better person by someone who thinks they're the arbiter of truth, justice, and and virtue, and what good morals are, cut that shit out. You really need to cut it out, because people like myself, we're tired of it. And I think that's what's driven a lot of people to content on, like this, on streaming services, YouTube, and, I know there's like Odyssey and Rumble and all that stuff. I get it. People are tuning in a lot less to network TV. People are going to the theater a lot less. And I don't think it's just 2020. I've seen, I just was at a live event, and thousands and thousands of people hanging out. I watched college football, and those stadiums are packed. They are showing up in droves. They're not showing up in the theaters. I don't think that's just a 2020 thing. I think that's an actual choice, because people like myself are tired of being talked down to, and tired of being told of how to live our lives, and that we're doing it wrong if we don't do it their way. And I don't think that money grants you intelligence, and I don't think that power grants you wisdom. And this person, again, like I said, someone that I respect, someone that I still listen to. I tuned in to the next week's show. I'm a subscriber, and I'm not going to go on there and start trashing them in the comment section, and I'm not going to call them out by name, because I don't think it's necessary. I'm not trying to punch up so that I can get more subscribers. Don't need to do that. The only thing that's going to get me more subscribers is this right here. And, you know, I'm going to do everything that I can to, you know, grow the channel, you know, because I like doing this. You know, I enjoy doing what I'm doing right now. But when people like that, you know, when they step into an arena that I wasn't really prepared for, it really caught me off guard. And listening to this person sort of run his mouth, I was like, wow, it made me think of him differently, for sure. And maybe I made the mistake of putting a little too much faith into this person's opinion. And, you know, because they are knowledgeable in what they talk about, and because they don't necessarily, and they don't always say things that I agree with. Some things I'm like, I totally disagree with you. I think you're wrong. But this right here, this one hit a button with me, because calling out fans, I think, is a crappy thing to do. And I wouldn't do that, you know, and, you know, I'm not sitting here telling people that my way is the right way and you should be listening to me and stop listening to them. You listen. I love that. I love freedom. You know, you should be able to listen to whoever you want. You should be able to speak opinions on however you want to speak them. As long as you're not hurting anybody, I'm cool with it. So, but I think I'll leave it at that. You know, I think I've said enough on it. I appreciate you guys taking the time. Sorry, I was just staring at my notes for a second. I just wanted to make sure I covered everything that I want to talk about. But I know this video ran a little bit long, like they always do. Sometimes I get to going and it's just hard for me to shut up. But I hope you guys enjoyed the content today, and I hope you have a great day. And if you like the channel and you like what you heard, I would really appreciate a subscription. A notification would be nice, and a like also helps the channel. And, you know, share it with your friends. Share it with somebody if you think it might be worth their time. Other than that, you have a great day. I'll talk to you later.